Welcome to No Quit, the podcast where real business isn't filtered. I'm Jeff Leschere, founder of Fleur de Lis Law and Title. I've built an 8-figure company, but not without setbacks, burnouts, and moments that nearly broke me. This podcast is where I tell the truth about what it really takes to grow something that lasts. The wins, the losses, and the grit in between. If you're in it for more than just the highlight reel, you're in the right place. The stories shared on this podcast are based on real experiences, but details have been changed or generalized to protect client confidentiality. This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute legal advice. Listening to this podcast does not create an attorney-client relationship. Hey, everybody, this is Jeff again at the No Quit podcast. Today we have Matt Digby, a good longtime friend of mine. Actually, I'm not even sure of your rank in the military, so rather than me butcher that, you tell me a little bit something about yourself. Give me the 60-second version of Matt Digby.
Okay, so yeah, I'm Matt Digby. I'm a father and husband. Been married for 25 years to my wife, Holly. We have 3 children and live here locally in Ponchatoula. Pretty much lived here my entire life. Been in the military for 28 years now, 28 plus years. So a few more to go before retirement. I'm currently a major.
You've been saying that for a while, though.
Yeah, I have been saying that for quite some time. But I was enlisted my first 13 years, so I'm a little behind the power curve as far as time in service versus my rank.
Yeah.
I didn't become an officer till 2010. So from 96, I've been in since 1996. So.
Jeez. So what is your rank again?
I'm a major.
Major. And you just made that fairly recently, right?
No, about 6 years ago.
Was it 6?
Yeah, about 6 years ago.
God, time is flying, man. So that was right about the time, you were saving our lives in the ocean when I was fat and out of shape and couldn't swim. Yeah. We've known each other, I guess, our entire lives. We played Little League baseball against each other, and obviously grew up with Holly and have seen the kids grow up and all. But I kind of wanted to touch on a few things. What I'm looking to do with this podcast is sort of help people sort of understand. Maybe, kind of we all go through adversities in life, maybe some tough times that we've faced, whether they're good or bad, and like how to kind of overcome those things, but kind of dig into it a little bit deeper and get specific about it. So I hope to maybe touch on a few of those today. Right off the bat, let's kind of sort of jump into it. I mean, what's a tough time in your life that you had to face kind of unexpectedly that you ended up, having to dig yourself out of, and how'd you do that?
Yeah, I think there's a few that come to mind, like I think anybody else, and there's probably lots of people who have very deep, dark sections of their life that they need to dig themselves out of adversity-wise. I don't necessarily have some of those. Some are just more typical struggles of life. I think about being newly married. I got married in 2000.
How old were you?
I was 22.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Holly was 20. So yeah, we were very young, very naive, but I had been in the military for 3 years at that point, joined
That'll make you grow up a bit.
19. I mean, we were both most of the way through college type thing. Bought our first house, 6 months after we got married. I mean, we were very quickly growing up. But newly married, 9/11 hits. And 3 months later, I find myself mobilized in January of 2002, having to leave my my young wife and no kids yet, and then 6 months after that, we get remission to Guantanamo Bay. So here I am, 6 months after 9/11, and I'm in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, where they're opening up Camp Delta, the prison camp where they were bringing all the detainees in. So we had just closed Camp X-Ray when I got there.
See, some of that I think even is, it's funny your state of mind and how you operate, because I think a lot of guys, especially guys like me who haven't been in the military, would almost say that's a bit of a tough time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, everything you've listed off right there, 9/11, you're in the military, Guantanamo Bay. I mean, you say it like it's nothing, but
well, I mean, for one, a lot of time has passed. That was 2002, and I am a career military guy. And obviously, when you go in, that's part of the deal, right?
Yeah.
You're eventually gonna get.
And those guys are gonna watch this, so they're gonna give you a hard time if you look weak, I guess.
Yeah, well, absolutely. But when you get there, and I mean, we weren't on Guantanamo Bay proper, right? I mean, that's the military installation, the naval base. We weren't there. We were way off in the corner where they built the prison camp. And they were still building our hooches when we got there. I mean, 12 of us lived in a 12 wide by 32. I remember it was 2 sheets of plywood wide with the 36-inch door.
That's a hooch. Is that what you call
Yeah,
it?
hooch, yeah, and then 4 sheets of plywood long. So, roughly 15 by 32, and 12 of us lived in there,
Good Lord.
for 6 months.
Smelled great, I bet. Yeah.
So you got that, right? And we're working in the prison camp every day, and then on top of that, we had no hot water. So for the first 4 months, because they were still building everything was
Yeah.
just trying to get established and whatnot. So we had no hot water for like the first 4 months, which you don't realize you miss those creature comforts until you don't have them. So
Jesus.
you're shaving every day. You're walking 100 yards to the sinks to shave and walking back, and it's all sand and I mean it's
I mean, I try
and
cold showers at the house, and that 30 seconds is pretty
Yeah,
tough. So I
yeah.
can't imagine every single day, every shower.
It was pretty comical because typically now, I mean, it's a fine tuned machine now. When deployments happen, the contracts get turned on. They build these fobs, and at the beginning it might be
Yeah.
for some of the harder MOSs, those guys are out in it. For the majority of guys though, they have shower trailers. They
They're
have
pampered now.
they're pretty. You're away from home, but
Yeah,
look,
exactly. I'm
they
joking.
make it pretty.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world. But shower wise, what we had was the Haitian refugee crisis in '93. They brought all these Haitians to Guantanamo Bay in this exact area that we were in,
Yeah.
and so they had built these concrete showers. So there was about 8 of them, and they faced the ocean. And it was pretty cool because there was just a giant cliff. There was a road and a fence, but
So you had a view
there
at
was a
least.
cliff and you had the ocean. Well, the problem was it was literally like being in a prison. I mean, there were no shower, there was no lights, there was no shower curtains, it was sand all the way up to it. It was there was no drain. They just built this for refugees.
And how long
very-
was this
very
you had to
quick.
do this again?
Well, this is about 4 months. They brought the shower trailers in about 4.5 months. So,
Good
and it was a
Lord.
6-month deployment, which is pretty short, honestly. But they had a button on the wall, and you would push the button, and 5 seconds of cold water would come out before it would turn off. So you'd have to just, So that for the first
What?
4 months before we got shower trailers and hot water. I think of things like that, right? That's a very small
Yeah.
portion of adversity there, So we come home, it's gone a year total, and we come home, and we were actually the first unit in Louisiana National Guard that was mobilized after 9/11. So it was a big deal. The adjutant general's there, and he's telling everyone, "Oh, y'all did your duty. Go home, start your families. Get back in school.
You're
all
finished.
this." And we do. We get pregnant very shortly thereafter, and 57 days later, we got reactivated for another year. So went back on active duty. Had to
Good
leave
grief.
my wife and now pregnant child,
Yeah.
now pregnant wife, for another year, and came back after that. So and shortly thereafter, I just went back full time. So I've been active duty since 2005.
Is that the sort of thing that I mean, I'm sure the age helps a little bit. You're kind of there with your guys, your unit, and all, so y'all kind of get to be pretty close. I'm sure, and we're all going through it, so it gets a little bit easier maybe from that standpoint. But I mean, was it something that you had to get up every morning and be like, another cold shower?
Yeah, I mean, eventually it's like anything else. I mean, you kind of steal your mindset. I don't mean STEAL,
Yeah.
STEL. I mean, you just can't. It is what it is. I mean, at some point, you can't get up and feel sorry for yourself, because all you're going to do, you're already away from your family. There's already
Mhm.
limited communication, and that was the other part. It's 2002, so we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have FaceTime.
So you're not
we
able to
didn't
really
have-
relay this back home. a
No,
whole
I
lot.
mean, we were writing letters. I remember Holly was making me CDs, music,
Oh,
and
yeah?
she was burning CDs and mailing them to me. When we wanted to talk, we would have to wait until we had a day off. They had bus service to Guantanamo, so you had a school bus to get to Guantanamo proper. Then you had to go put your minutes on a calling card, and then you had to wait in line at the payphones. And then so this was like a 6-hour ordeal by the
Good
time
Lord.
you got all the way there. They don't know you're calling. You have no way of saying
Scheduling
you
it,
get
so
called, and you get a voicemail.
you go through all that.
You get an
Oh,
answering
man.
machine. There were no cell. Yeah, we weren't having really cell phones, So you get an answering machine, and it's like, all right, I guess I'll try it another week.
You know what's
It's like-
interesting about that, though, is I think we were more patient because we were used to it back then, right? So if
Absolutely.
you didn't catch anybody, oh, unlucky.
Yeah,
you
you
today
think of that now, and it's like, that's insane. But
Yeah.
then I was just like, all right, I guess I'll try again next
I
week.
lose
Like,
my mind if
yeah.
I call my wife and she doesn't answer. I'm like, what are you doing?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think of that. That was kind of an early, adversity, and then, the big one I go back to is the death of my best friend. So Lee Kessinger, who obviously and
Yeah.
many people that are probably going to watch this know. Hilarious guy.
Oh, yeah.
Moved here between our freshman and sophomore year at Ponchatoula. Moved in our neighborhood. We became inseparable. And as we moved throughout kind of life together. He was in my wedding. I mean, we went in the military together. We went through basic training at AIT together.
Really?
He was on those deployments with me. Um, and we ended up in the same unit together on active duty. So we worked together, day in, day out for quite a few years. And then, one day he just goes home from work, and it's 2010 at this point, and he just has a massive aneurysm.
I know. I remember when that happened.
Dies.
It was so shocking. I mean, how old was he at the time?
He was 32.
32.
He was 32
Yeah.
years old. So, for me, I was still a runner then. I wasn't doing some of the more endurance stuff that I'm doing now. But I had started dabbling in triathlons and doing some shorter distance stuff, and that one, it just affected me. I hadn't lost a parent at that point. I hadn't had lost some grandparents, but I was very young, and just never really had anyone that was that close to me. That passed away. So he was 32 when he died, and me going out running, it's kind of like the one time I can turn my brain off. People always say, "Oh man, in today's world, with social media and everything, it's very hard to turn your brain off. There's always a million things to do." And so I decided, for me to help me run through it, that I was going to do. I called it the 33 for Lee. He was turning 33 that year, so on his 33rd birthday, as a unit. My unit, we used to go out to the LSU lakes every week on Tuesday mornings, and we would run the loop. There's a 4, 5, or 6 mile loop out there. And as a unit, we would go run that all the time. So to help me get through it, I decided to do the 33 for Lee, and I went and ran 33 miles for his 33rd birthday.
Had you ever run that far before?
I had never run that far before. So
Jesus.
it was, just kind of something I started. And the other guys in the unit wanted to come run legs with me, and so we kind of turned it into this little event, which really wasn't the intent. But my wife was out there, and kids I had alive at that time were out there. But it was good. It was very therapeutic.
Yeah.
It helps. I don't know. I guess I'm one of those guys that running those types of distances, it helps me process.
I was about to ask,
grief.
like, did you find that you had a talent for it at that point?
I wouldn't call it. I wouldn't say I have a talent for it. I say I'm stubborn.
I'd
say I'm stubborn, and I think you start learning your pain thresholds as you move through some of these distances and different things. But it was definitely eye opening. I had never ran that far before, so it wasn't like I was blazing the trail. That wasn't the intent. It was just more to kind of just help me process. And that running long distances, that's what it has done for me personally.
So have you used that now in other things? Like, is that your sort of, you hear about guys that, get up in the morning, they read their Bible, or some guys meditate. Some guys, maybe it's, running like this. Is that a time for you to sort of clear your head, kind of get your thoughts out on some things?
It is. To me, it sets the tone of my day.
Really?
It really does. And I'm not saying I run 7 days a week. I typically run, 5 to 6.
Yeah.
But it definitely sets the tone for me. And it doesn't really matter the distance. Some days I might run. I typically run less than 4, but I might run 4. Or I might run 12. It doesn't. The distance necessarily doesn't matter. It's just getting those endorphins. It's getting everything moving. And it just improves everything about my day, my mood. I feel like I'm a better husband. I'm a better father.
Yeah.
Those types of things when it's a stress reliever too, So, but yeah, I think that's probably the biggest adversity one, and then I think through my wife's brother was tragically killed not long after that in a workplace accident, which was just shocking to the family, being very young.
And those things, I know everybody's going to deal with that sort of grief differently, but, did you find yourself in a place where, and I know this isn't always the case, my wife she doesn't process things the way I do, so my recommendations usually don't work for her, but, was that something you had to get involved and sort of say, hey, these are the things that worked for me, or this is what, how I kind of got through, Lee, or is it very much she kind of did her own thing? Some people like kind of pull themselves back, I guess, a little bit. So, I'm just curious as to, how people deal with some of this stuff. Because until you've gone through it, like all you do, it's sort of abstract thinking, right? It's like, until you really lose someone that close, you don't really know how you're going to wake up the next morning, how often it's going to be on your mind, how some people have to, go away and process it and think about it a lot, maybe even write about it, whatever. And others are very much like, I got to get back to normal life.
Yeah.
as quickly as possible. Otherwise, they'll slip into a depression kind of thing. And I'm just curious, like what y'all, what you found, I guess, with Lee and how that worked with Zach as well.
Yeah, I think consistency. I'm exactly that. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's a slippery slope. You can absolutely fall into a hole with things like that and never
Yeah.
climb out of. Someone loses a child or someone loses a spouse unexpectedly or a family member. It's very easy to fall into that. And for me personally, and I know Holly's grieved in different ways, and it's still grieving to this day. I mean, it's
Yeah.
something you never get over.
Sure.
For me, getting back to quote unquote normal life. And what I mean by that is, I mean, obviously they're always there in the back of your mind. That part is always there, but the consistency for me and the internal discipline that I have is something that I just have to continue to do, because if not, a week off turns into 3 weeks off,
Mm-hmm.
6 weeks off, and next thing you know, you get to that trap where you're like, oh, I'm too far gone. I remember what I was. And,
Makes it easy to stop
it
then.
makes it so easy to stop. All the excuses are just there.
So you're basically the same age as Lee at that point. So when you turned 32, 33, you sort of began running, and you've continued pretty solidly all the way to today.
Yeah, I had about a 5-6 year break where I did triathlons, went up and completed the Ironman level, and that was a big bucket list item. And that's a long train up. I mean, it's a big time constraint. It's a big mental constraint. It's a financial constraint. I mean, the price of bikes and to do all the things that you have to do to get to that level. It's definitely an investment. And once I kind of did that, I started doing some other distance running. Did a couple 50Ks.
I feel like you're building back up now. I'm often wondering if you're like how far you go. Are you going to go ultra marathon route, or are you going to get back into the triathlon?
Yeah, no, I think I'm done with the triathlons.
Yeah.
It mainly for me at 48 years old and a husband and father. For me, it's a safety factor. Like riding bikes around here is good luck.
Yeah.
You really have to. Then it becomes you got to pack your bike up. You got to go somewhere. There's a whole. It's a whole day gone when you got to go out and you train and you got to go ride 80, 100 miles. I mean, if you want to be realistic about completing these races, and where are you going to go do that around here?
Yeah.
I mean, people make it a sport to see how close they can get to you in your spandex.
Yeah.
So I think those days are probably behind me. I'm enjoying the ultra marathon route. I've done quite a few ultras.
You
this
just
year.
finished how long in
So
runs?
I did a 31 miler a few weeks ago in New Orleans. I've done 5 this year.
Yeah.
5 50Ks
5?
this year.
Good Lord.
Yeah. So
I didn't keep track. I know when I look at that Strava app, it's just a little depressing. I run my little 3 miles and go to the gym, and you're like, oh, 9, 11, 12,
well,
14.
if we stepped in the gym and then I saw your bench press, I would go the same way. So we all have our strengths, right?
Yeah,
So it's but yeah, it's I think I get a lot of questions daily just in the military about running. About, what's the secret? How do you keep? I mean, I'm 48 years old. I'm not.
What is the
not
secret?
that
What do you
young
think
anymore.
about for that length of time?
I don't really think about anything.
Really,
that's
just
the beauty
concentrating
of it.
and breathing,
I
like
mean,
it's sort of.
I don't know. You get into I don't want to say like a meditative state because I'm not that guy. But there are times where you kind of forget that you're running. And that is still times where I think about lost family members. I think about the future. I think about it. The one thing I don't think about is work. It is really a time for me to kind of turn my brain off from all those. Okay, what is the deadlines? What is this I have to get done? So it's kind of from 30 minutes to a couple hours a day where I don't really have to think about much of anything. And I know it's kind of hard because a lot of people are like, man, my brain's always going 90. But I don't know. I can almost kind of forget that I'm running. To be honest with you, I mean, and don't get me wrong, I'm not out there running like a 6:30 pace. Like I'm not thinking about anything. I mean, I'm not.
You're flying, but
I mean, I'm running. Normal 8 to 9.
And I know you got those things. You got to listen to your body. You'll have an ache or a cramp will come up or something like that. But I do feel like having run, even the short distances, even if it's be 3 or 4 miles, you get that unbroken sort of time to work through something in your head.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes too, whether it's if you're going through a difficult time, sometimes, people can find themselves sort of stuck in there because they never get to finish that thought process, right? Whether it's, grieving and kind of thinking about those things and kind of getting past it emotionally, or if you're really trying to get to an answer, right, to something. I find, I wish I could run 15 miles. I might work out a lot of problems, but I find even at 3 or 4 miles, I can come back and be like, I've at least achieved a level of I've narrowed this thing down. Like
Yeah.
whatever issue I might be dealing with, all right, I know it's like it's going to go this way or that, and not. I have no idea, of what the outcome might be because you start to think about it or try to work on something, and a phone call comes in or a text comes in, or you got to go run an errand, or in this case, somebody will come in the office, I got to answer a question or whatever, and it's like that broken chain of thought, that you can go have it. I mean, what time are you running? 5?
Yeah, I mean, I get up 4:15 typically, so
Yeah,
I'm at
I think
work.
that's a
I mean,
big part of it
I'm
too.
in
Like,
New Orleans, so
yeah,
I'm getting to work
but there's nobody else really
5:45.
up either to bother you.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, look, you're
you know?
absolutely right. I mean, in today's ever-connected world, I mean, I don't have any notifications on my phone. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't news breaks. I don't do any of that stuff. I don't do social media.
yeah.
None of those alerts are on my phone. No notifications. I get text messages and phone calls,
Are you
and
listening to
that's
anything? Like
yeah,
headphones? Yeah.
yeah. I mean, sometimes. I mean, sometimes I'm listening to music. Sometimes I'm listening to podcasts. It just all depends.
What are some of the things you listen to? What podcasts?
So Rich Roll, I listen
Yeah.
to some
Big
Rich Roll
runner? Yeah.
stuff. I listen to some Joe Rogan here and there.
Yeah.
The podcast can get a little like I like the cadence of music,
Mhm.
too when you're running as well. It just kind of gets you into this rhythm where again it helps me forget that
What kind of
that
music?
I'm kind of running old school rap.
Really?
Yeah, old school 90s,
Yeah.
early 2000s.
I had to get away from the music. I was listening to more like AC/DC and things like that. It
Yeah.
got me so amped up that I was like, running out there in like zone 4, and
Right.
why can't I go more than a mile? Yeah,
Right, right, yeah.
So I've been listening to more like these, they're not podcasts, but they're these, 30 to an hour long clip of sort of almost like inspirational. It might be, anybody from, Mike Tyson or Matthew McConaughey to like Goggins, and some of it will get you fired up and kind of put you in a dark place. But I think as I got into this, like running and healthier stuff, I sort of needed a little bit of that, more aggressive, Goggins style kind of talking. I've
Yeah.
trimmed back on it lately, but yeah, I can listen to that for days. But I think that's another key people miss is like they think, maybe it's old school rap, right? And they turn that on and it works and fine. But I think for me, I had to work through a few things before I got to the point where like this is what I can run and work out to
Yeah.
at 4:30 in the morning, when no one can bother me. And I think that's another key that people miss sometimes is like they don't find that consistency and they don't have the discipline to stay with the time. But once they do all those things, they still get distracted with other stuff.
Absolutely. And the music thing for me, it's literally just it's more metronome based. It's more, I'm trying to hit 180 steps per minute, which is
Mhm.
kind of the key you're trying to do. So I'm listening for those cues, and rap can be very, old
Yeah,
school. It can
yeah,
be very repetitive like that, where like you said, it's something like AC. And I still listen to Metallica,
yeah,
AC/DC,
yeah.
a lot of the 90s bands, Nirvana and
Mhm.
all those guys. But you're right. I'm doing tempo work when I'm listening to them, or
Yeah,
I'm doing some speed work, some kind of repeats or something like that. But I think you hit it on the head with the motivational stuff. It's fantastic, right? It can only take you so far.
Oh, yeah,
Like
yeah,
God
yeah.
isn't getting me out of bed at
That's right.
4:15,
Yeah.
and that's the part I think.
Well, I think he even says it right. He's like that. He doesn't believe in motivation. And I think a lot of people look to it like, oh, I got to get all fired up and whatever like that. But it's really just putting in a certain number of days where you stick to the discipline, and it really does just sort of click. Like I cannot sleep past.
Yep.
I mean, really, I don't even get to 4 anymore.
Yep.
It's like my body's like it's ready to go. We know this is the time.
Yep, I'm the same way. I
Yeah.
very rarely do I hear my alarm. I just get up, and that's just from years of getting up. And I'm sure there's lots of people that are like that. But and we've talked about this before. What is the secret to all of this? And saying that the secret is there is no secret.
Yeah.
It's discipline and consistency. You just
Yep.
have to. No one's gonna make you get out of that bed. No
Mhm.
one's gonna make me put my shoes on and go run. And if I never did it another day in my life, no one's going to make me do it. And that's why I like the ultra distances, because every part of your body, including your brain, is telling you to stop.
Yeah.
Why are you doing that?
What point? I was going to ask that. At what point everybody has the bear jump on their back, so to speak? Like, is there a certain like I got to get through mile 13? Is there a point that's like you're difficult?
Well, every race, and that's why I like the ultras, because road racing, and I did that for many years.
It's all the
half
same whole
marathon,
run.
it's all the same, right?
Yeah.
You can dial in what your half marathon or your marathon time is going to be by minutes.
Yeah.
If you have the same consistent race and you get the fueling right and your training's prepped and all that,
Mhm.
guys might be like, oh, I want to run an hour 32 half marathon, and then they break it by 30 seconds and they're ecstatic. I might have an hour and a half swing between two 50K, 31-mile races. And it's because of the terrain.
Yeah.
It's because of the conditions. They don't call these races off because it rained a few days before and it's muddy. If it's raining during, it's cold. I mean, there's none of that. There's elevation changes. There's routes. I mean, it's trails. So that also adds a level of complexity to the races as well. And that's really what I like about it is every race is completely different.
Yeah.
And not to mention the impact to your body's a lot less too. But people just don't take it that serious. I mean, and I really saw it in triathlons. I mean, you would think these guys' livelihoods are on the line. You're coming in a transition, getting on your bike. And I mean, there's guys like yelling at you to get out the way. And I'm like, bro, if you're with me, you're not winning.
Yeah.
Like we're not, like we're together here. We're like in 800th place. This is not, there's 2,000 people in the race here. We're not winning. But some people take it so serious, and that's fine. Like I get that. But you go to these ultras, and I mean, these guys are getting out 10 minutes before the race starts, stretching, like, just
cracking
throwing
open
their
a beer.
vest on. I mean, it's just a completely different vibe.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about it. It's not as serious. Guys are out there for themselves. And, there's.
But I feel like this too, it's like everything, it's starting to get infiltrated as well, right? I
It
mean,
is.
5 years ago in Ultra, you might have 10 people show up. Now you get there, and I mean, how many people DNF and don't even finish because they're not made for this? I mean, there's no way I'm trying one.
It's difficult. Let me tell you, and you got, there's a lot of things you have to dial in, and you get in your own head again, overcoming the adversity. Every single race, you're going to have a low point, and at any point, every ultra I've done, I could have quit every single one of them. I haven't DNF'd one yet. I did drop down from a 50 miler to a 31 miler earlier this year. So I guess technically that is a DNF, but there's a low point in every single race, and you can quit at any time. At any point you can just say,
nobody's stopping.
Nobody's stopping me. I can just quit. So trying to move through that and just saying, no, I mean, I want to know what I can do.
What do you tell yourself when you get to that point?
I mean, there's a lot of mean things that I tell myself. I mean, it's just like, I run a lot of miles. I mean, I prepare. I meticulously plan my fueling. I try to stick to that strategy. It's difficult, to get in the car, hit the carbs per hour, and the the electrolytes and the sodium and all that stuff you have to hit, because you get to where you don't want to eat, you don't want to drink, things.
But
like
you're
that.
telling yourself, like, look, I put in 2,000 miles here.
Yeah,
to run this race.
Exactly right. And more than that, for me, it's a time factor. I'm sure like a lot of parents do, you feel guilty doing things for yourself. It's like, and I very rarely am I missing really anything. But it's still like, hey, I drove 2 hours to this race, or, I did a 50K in Panama City earlier this year. It's like, got to go there the night before, I'm by myself. That's time away from my family, and my family's not waking up with me on Saturday. And after multiple deployments and dozens and dozens of schools, I mean, I think Holly and I figured it up one time. I've been gone like 7 years of our marriage.
Good Lord.
Between just mobilizations, deployments, and things like that. So there's a guilt factor involved in it too. So that's part of it. It's like, hey, I
remember that 50 miler or 50K in Panama City, and it was pouring down rain, and you drove all the way back. So it was a 3.5, 4 hour drive home, right? After running it, after driving there in the morning, it wasn't like you stayed overnight. So I mean, they got to feel a little bit appreciated.
Yeah, no doubt. And look, that's the thing. That's the other part of this too, is having a supportive spouse. I mean, I've been on this crazy journey now. I mean, we used to take vacations around my races. I've done triathlons in multiple states, and Holly's been pregnant, and they're pushing a baby in a stroller and pregnant. I mean, she's always been supportive. I'm an early riser. She's not. So on the weekends it works out because I'm normally done with my run.
I have one of those too.
Yeah. I mean, I'll go do 10, 12 miles, come back, and, she hasn't gotten up yet. Now I'm also getting up at 4:30 to knock that out. I'm not saying she's sleeping until 2 o'clock or anything, but it works out. And
Mhm.
having a supportive spouse is absolutely huge.
And
Because
now your youngest, is he getting into it? Cooper, he's
he is,
starting to
yeah,
run?
yeah.
Yeah.
We just did a little 5 mile midnight run
Yeah, how was
in
that?
Bogachita. It was a blast.
Yeah.
Running with headlamps and starts at midnight. It's just really cool running up and down the hills. And
Yeah.
so he did very well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna serve him well in soccer too. I think the average soccer player runs like 10 or 12 miles a
Yeah.
game. So, to have that kind of running, I guess as a normalcy at home and him getting into it, that's gonna serve him well when he plays for sure.
Well,
So,
and that's the other part to it too is I want my kids to see, and I do think it pays off. And for example, Camille cheers for St. Thomas, and she came home the other day and she was like, "Oh, we had to do a mile after cheer practice," and she was like, "The whole time I was just thinking, if my dad can run ultras, I can run a mile." And I was like, "Okay,
nice.
she's at least paying
Yeah,
attention." I
yeah,
mean, she's 17, but
yeah.
she's paying attention to something,
Yeah, for sure.
So now
Yeah.
they're not joining me on runs or anything. Don't get me wrong,
Well,
but
they may though at some point. I mean, I think when they start to hit that threshold of life where they're like, wow, it's not the fat's not burning off. I can't have a whole bag of chips or
yeah,
stack of cookies and lose weight.
yeah.
Because I mean, for me, I hit that time in law school
Mhm.
and ignored it because everything was going on. And man, talk about detrimental.
Yeah.
You go in and you weigh 184 pounds and you come out at 224. It's like, chalk it up to,
Yeah.
I'll just buy some bigger pants.
Yeah, and then that compounds, and it's like, well,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
too far gone. I can't,
Yep.
and that is, but man, you can't put a price on how well you feel,
Mm-hmm.
when you're in decent shape. And I wouldn't even call myself in great shape. I mean, I'm in decent shape.
Yeah.
I
I'd
mean,
say you're pretty
there's,
good shape. But
well,
I think it is important to say, like, I mean, I think people will often feel like I just can't do it. I'm too far gone or I've never done it or whatever. But I mean, I didn't take a 5 year hiatus. I took a 20 year
yeah,
from doing stuff, and to get back into it, it really only took like, a month of staying consistent,
right.
and then you start to see the benefit or the gains that you're making. And then that's all it takes after that.
Yeah.
You start to notice your body changing, and like,
That's
it's
the old
it's
adage
easy.
of just stacking bricks. I mean, it's
Yeah.
you improve 1% a day. I mean, all those old cliches,
Yeah.
they're all still true.
Yeah.
You're stacking those bricks of every workout. Eventually, you're gonna start feeling a little better. You're gonna pass a threshold. And I run with a lot of people that still in the military. A lot of people still call me and text me and ask me for advice. And there's a lot of and I tell my kids this too, like I tell my soldiers, don't tell me, show me. There's a whole lot
Yeah.
of talk. There's a whole lot of I'm gonna
Oh, yeah.
do this and I'm gonna break this and I'm like, that's great. It's good to
Mhm.
have goals. You need to visualize it. You need to say it out loud. But I also want you to show me.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, and that's the thing. When I'm out there and like, oh yeah, well, I've been running too. It's okay. Well, I'm out there. Why don't you show up with me and run with me?
I feel
let's
like
go
I've been
run
running, and then
together.
I run with you, and I'm like, yeah, I don't want to run with Matt anymore. Well, look, I hate to be cutting it off, short here. I really kind of wanted to touch on Kona at some point, but we'll have to have you back. I mean, it's
Okay.
time's up here, but I appreciate you sharing, some of those things with us. I mean, you're an inspiration to me. I know when I don't feel like getting up, that Strava app is the one that I see on my phone. I'm like, I know Matt and Matt are probably running a day, and and you're gonna run 11 miles. Like, I got to at least get my 3 in. But no, I appreciate you coming on and helping us. I hope someone out there is, hears it. I think like you said, the discipline and the consistency. If there's nothing else to hear, it's those
Yeah,
things. And if you stick with
absolutely.
that, you'll see the benefits. So, one last question though: anybody you recommend that that I should maybe try to have on the show? Or?
Yeah, I'll give a plug to the Tangi Run Club. I just recently joined it.
Yeah.
Jeremy Thompson is the mayor of the Run Club, and
Okay.
he does a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really, really strong runners in that group, and they have weekly runs. They have a Wednesday night 5K that starts at Kate Square every Wednesday at 6 p.m.
You can just show up. Anybody
You
that
just
wants
show
to,
up.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 40, 45 people that show up to that thing every single week. They go have a drink after. Some join,
Oh, cool.
some don't. They have Saturday morning runs starting in Kate Square. They have Sunday morning runs at Woodlake Estates. And then there's a couple of little breakout groups that
Yeah.
do, throughout the week runs, all different paces. And so, I would just say to anyone listening, if you're worried, you want to take that first step, man, go to Facebook and Google Tangi Run Club, and you'll see all the great things that those guys are doing. And in that same vein, I would say Scott Henderson. I know,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know Scott. He is a phenomenal athlete.
Still running, huh?
He is,
Yeah.
and just
I don't think he ever took any time off.
He is not, and he is, in his early 50s. I mean, I couldn't hold that guy's water bottle. I mean,
Really?
he's a phenomenal runner.
I might check him out too. Then
Yeah, he's somebody. He's a great cyclist. He does the gravel cycling and things like that well, and just in his personal life too. I mean, he's was a military guy, was on active duty, he's very successful.
Yeah, I've known him for a
in
long
his personal
time.
life.
Yeah.
But yeah, just an overall great guy. I think he'd be a
Cool.
good candidate.
Well, I
for the
appreciate it, man.
podcast.
Again, thanks for coming on, and Matt Digby, Major Matt Digby, everyone. So
Thanks for having
Thank
me.
you, dude. Appreciate it.
All right.
That's it for today's episode of No Quit. If you're still showing up, still building, still fighting, I see you. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and join me for more behind-the-scenes lessons on what it takes to keep going when most people would walk away. And remember, success isn't about getting it perfect. It's about not giving up.